How many albums have you had? 8?
7. 6.
6.
James Blake, 6, 7
6
albums.
or 7 albums.
6 or 7.
About 6, 7. Okay. Oh, hello. Welcome to Sidetracked. I'm Nick Grimshaw.
My name is Annie McManus.
And I'm James Blake.
Welcome,
Yes!
James Blake.
Thank you very much. It's
That
great
was
to
a
be
bit
here.
like AA, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. I'm James Blake.
And all sat in a circle saying hello. Welcome to Sidetrack. This is when me and Annie get together and discuss the week in music, and occasionally we welcome a guest, not all the time. And today, as you just heard, James Blake is with us. We're so excited that you would do this with us, James.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here, especially
really
as you are probably I'm pretty sure my first ever interview was with you
Was it really? Wow.
on the BBC.
Yes.
And then I think...
Did we do it at Abbey Road?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think potentially my second ever was with you. It was
Oh,
either...
wow.
And then the third in the Holy Trinity would be Marianne Hobbs.
Yeah.
She'll be joining us later.
Right. This is your
Just
life.
to complete the square.
We're going to do a full rewind on your entire career.
Okay,
From the
fantastic.
get-go.
Yeah.
I remember that. Was it Abbey Road or Maida Vale? I remember being at a studio.
I think
Maybe.
it was Maida Vale.
Maida Vale. That would make more sense.
It was, I remember it being maze-like and over the top.
Yes. And we sat on a flight case because music.
Because music, because Abbey Road.
It's the only things we'll sit on.
Yeah.
Yes.
It is so nice to have you, though. Thank you for
Oh,
being
no,
here.
it's my
And
pleasure.
it feels so timely and brilliant to have you because we've got a lot of questions that we
do.
feel like you can answer for us, James, today. No pressure. The music industry needs fixed. And there's only
we're
one
gonna do
man
it
here to
today.
tell us.
We're going to do it
We're
today.
gonna do
By
it
the end of this podcast, we do cite you, James, quite a lot. We're like, James Blake's right. Don't even see what James Blake said. We do say that quite a lot.
But this isn't just us like interrogating you. You're also co-hosting. So feel free
Yes.
to stop the conversation, move the conversation on, do
Yeah.
whatever you need.
Yeah.
But there's one job you have to do right now, top at the top.
Okay. Do I look at the camera?
Yeah, why not? Okay.
Which camera?
Yeah. Go right down there. James can.
So I'm announcing that there'll be some bad words.
Yes.
Hello. My name's James Blake, and I just wanted to take the time, while we have it, to say that today's episode will contain swearing and foul language, and potentially some regrettable ideas. And so I'm just putting that out there now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, James.
For those of you who don't know, James is an English singer, songwriter, producer. He's worked with the biggest artists in the world, everyone from Beyoncé to Kendrick to Travis Scott to Frank Ocean, Rosalia. You've had 2 Mercury Prize noms, with 1 win for your 2013 album Overgrown, 2 Grammy Awards.
Announced as James Blunt.
No.
Stop!
Oh yeah.
No.
It's an easy mistake to make.
Anyway, let me carry on. 2 Grammy Awards, 9 Grammy nominations, a Latin Grammy Award, 3 Brit Award nominations.
Wow.
So that's just like a small list of the accolades. There's so much to talk about with you.
So many awards to talk about.
So much
Let's
music.
talk about each one.
So
We
many.
just go through
Let's
each
go to the
one.
Latin Grammy Awards first.
Well, listen, we did end on the Brit Awards.
Yes.
So the Brit Award nominations. Do you care about the Brit Awards? Is that something you would watch? You're
Have I
in
been
Britain now.
nominated? I haven't been
3
nominated.
times.
I'm sure that's a mistake.
Well, you've never been nominated for a Brit? Come on.
I don't think so.
James Blake, Brit Awards.
Unless somebody else has and I worked on it.
Unless
Are
it was
these the
James Blunt again.
cards? Wrote You're Beautiful in 2004.
British Male Solo Artist 2014, British Male Solo Artist 2012, and Rising Star 2011.
Ah.
He says fishing.
I guess that
Sorry, just say that again.
mate.
Really?
Really?
No.
Not me. Not me. Not the best male. So, I mean, I guess you're answering our question here. You don't really care about awards.
I honestly, that is just one that I didn't know was a thing. I just thought people bought Brits.
Yeah, they
what's
kind
the
of
deal
do.
with that? Do you think
I think they do.
Do you think they did the Sabrina Carpenter one this year where she won
Global
like
icon,
a
mate.
global
Come on.
success?
She attended the ceremony, thus
Yeah.
she had to get an award. I was surprised she didn't get the best international act. That Chappell Roan got 2 of the international, because I thought that would go to her, Sabrina or Teddy Swims, because they were there. But
I must say, Please, Please, Please is fantastic. It's a cracking song.
it's a cracking song. But did you see her at the Brits?
I didn't see the Brits.
Right.
So
Well, that answers our question.
Doesn't know it's been nominated. Didn't watch it. Did you ever watch it when you were younger? Was it something? Because it was definitely a lot more raucous in the 90s.
I'm interested in that you like it's interesting that you who is such a successful artist and has worked with, as we just heard, some of the biggest acts in the world. Like it's a massive. You're back in England now, but you were in LA for years. Export, in terms of British music, and there's no interest. Like there's no the Brits have not kind of.
Well, there isn't
acknowledged your music since 2014 or something. I don't know. It's weird to me that there's no. Do you feel like an outsider in that world?
Well, based on that, yeah, I do. I mean, to be honest, like you just got to keep doing your thing, haven't you?
And
really?
not give a shit about what the Brits think.
I mean, and actually, I think like there have been many things that I've cared a lot about that I didn't achieve that I thought I wanted. And had to drop ultimately.
Right.
I'm not sitting here being like, I'm just like, I just like stay in my room and just, I just make music. I'm a mad scientist. I don't think about what anyone thinks ever in the world. But I do think like the Brits is just one of those ones that sort of evaded me in terms of like, I think in general, I think Grammys are similar. It's like pomp and circumstance about essentially the people labels need to put in
to
front,
push forwards. Yes,
it's like it helps the machine really.
Yeah.
It's
like a shop window, isn't it?
Yeah, not to be the sort of it's all the man, the man. But it's like I guess that is the sort of nature of it. Is like if you need to sell records, best way to get people to hear about the acts that you've signed is getting the Brits out. Yeah. And just getting, I mean, I'm sure some people win them legitimately. I'm sure, like not everyone is having them bought for them, but you can just see that like there is some level of like, they're just, you can't have a big artist and not have that.
Yeah. The very nature of the awards is that it's funded and run by the major labels.
Yes.
So the very kind of the back end of it is flawed from the start because there's always going to be bias.
Who I feel sad for is people who don't know that.
Yes.
Like musicians who don't know that, who sort of go to these award ceremonies, and me in the past, other musicians who sort of go and think and just assume that it's based on like
merit,
and it's really not, and that's once you work that out. Like once I worked that out, I didn't feel crazy. Yeah, it's just when you feel crazy for that many years, and you're just like, wait, hold on, what?
Do you ever find at the Grammys or at an award ceremony, people will be like, "Hey James, we should get in the studio.
It's the
together.
perfect time to
we should do something." And do you ever? You don't have to say who. Please don't. Or do. Have you ever had to be someone that you're not keen on working with? If they've ever suggested that, do you have a good out?
Fake
number.
Really good out.
Yeah.
Is that sounds great. Absolutely, yeah.
And then when they when they do the next step, which is like, cool, shall we change
DM
numbers?
me.
Should we exchange numbers?
Like, oh, totally.
Yeah.
I would love to.
Yeah. And then
I've got a drink.
And then have you had it where they've like texted and been like, "Hey, it's me."
Yeah.
And then what? Just
would love to.
Oh, keeping it going.
See you later. No. See it like 12th of February. Yeah, I'm free. So thinking Abbey Road. Absolutely.
James, this is cool.
See you there. No, I'm joking. It's just, I'm just taking it to the nth degree.
Oh my God.
You must get in those situations. You're like,
yeah.
Love to.
That'd be great.
Love to. Well, we did a special of Sidetracked, myself and C-Matt, who was very funny, and I have to say, talked through the entire ceremony, and it was absolutely hilarious. And I think that I would have had a lesser night without her. Or you, do you know what I mean? Yeah. But like just having her as a wing woman who was just like telling me about like her family and nurses, telling me about what happened when she saw Beth Ditto in her underwear with Alison Moyet. Like these stories that were nothing to do with the Brit Awards, 4 hours. You can hear that on Sounds.
It's a great episode.
She also did a poem about the Shard.
So James, we have to cover, this is what we do on Sidetracked, we cover like the week in news. So we're going to just go over 3 headlines in music from this week quite quickly before you fix the music industry. Okay?
Okay.
So a very tragic thing that happened this week is the neo-soul icon Angie Stone died at the age of 63. She was behind songs like No More Rain and Wish I Didn't Miss You, probably the most famous of her songs. She was nominated for 3 Grammys. She, I didn't know, and I learned this from Trevor Nelson, who did a bit of a tribute to her online. She was part of this, one of the first ever female rap groups called Sequence, signed to Sugar Hill Records.
Wow.
And they came out of being cheerleaders. They were all cheerleaders in school together, and then they just made up raps, and then they were obsessed with Sugar Hill and went to a Sugar Hill show and went backstage and spoke to, what's your one from Sugar Hill? Sylvia someone, and kind of performed for her, and then they got signed on the spot.
And then she sort of went away as a songwriter, right? And then came back sort of like mid to late 90s, 97, 98 maybe?
Yeah.
With that record and with Wish I Didn't Miss You, which was, still sounds fantastic. Black Diamond was the record.
Yeah, and Mahogany Soul.
And Mahogany Soul, yeah.
And she worked with Mary J. Blige, Lenny Kravitz, famously worked with D'Angelo at the start of his career, had a relationship with him too, wrote songs for people like Erykah Badu, so hugely missed. And just a little like a little reminder to go and listen to her music because it is beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I don't know how you go from that last laughing conversation so easy. I was still laughing while you, and I felt bad, but it's like, because it's got nothing to do with Angie Stone, obviously. But like, you're showing your experience on radio.
The gear change.
The gear change was
Screech,
seamless.
handbrake turn.
The gear change.
It was unbelievable. It was like an automatic car. It wasn't like my manual that has to
Creak.
go through every single gear. And then
happy,
I'm
bit
still
less
like,
happy,
I'm just like,
Wow. Okay. Yeah. The gear change. I always find the gear change is really crazy when you have to do like Children in Need or Red Nose Day. Because
God, I
you're
can't
like
even
laughing
imagine.
at Dawn French being gunged, and now you're like, now,
Yeah.
famine.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a real gear change.
Wow,
It's
yeah.
really, it's a lot. Yeah.
I wasn't ready for the Angie Stone conversation. I've got to say, like you did that so seamlessly, but I was like in shock, and I wanted to say like, oh, I love Angie Stone, and really fucking sad that she's.
Well, we can say that
Passed away.
now.
Yeah, we can say that now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
let's
I'm James Blake.
let's let you
And,
into that. Let's let you into that. James, were you a fan of Angie Stone?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, I was.
What was the vibe?
Well, do you have any great... You can't do serious.
No, I to be honest, I'm somebody who laughs in shock, so I can't fully process this right now. I'm finding out now.
That you can't...
I'm finding out now that this has happened.
Okay.
Yeah,
Right. Okay.
So this is obviously we can move on.
Elsewhere this week, and I love this story, Chrissie Hynde has said that her and Johnny Marr have agreed, I love this, nothing's cool. Nothing is cool anymore.
This is
says Chrissie Hynde.
This is giving older cool person.
Yes. Both older cool people.
Yeah.
Chrissie Hynde...
I'd love to be privy to that conversation,
yeah,
by the
those
way,
two,
to them
me
on the
too.
phone, giving
Those
out.
two. Yeah. In a very tight,
summit.
well-aged leather jacket, complaining over a cigarette.
Yeah.
Nothing is cool anymore.
Yeah.
Well, over the weekend, Chrissie Hynde shared a post on Instagram with the caption, I was talking to Johnny Marr the other day, and we were just saying how nothing is cool anymore. Has anyone else noticed that? It used to be, that guy looks cool. Now it's, that guy's hot. So what happened to cool? In case you don't know what I mean, because you've grown up with social media, I include below a list of cool versus uncool to give you an idea.
So she said the cool list includes things like bands, attention to detail in one's outfit, discretion.
Discretion, that is cool.
That is cool. The
very cool.
uncool list, we have any car you might see parked outside the Dorchester Hotel in London. I love
Wow.
the kind of the nicheness of
So there's a
that.
taxi driver in like a London cab, like, hey!
Backing tracks, also uncool, and talking loudly on a phone in a public place.
Also uncool. No?
think they're all up for debate.
Bands.
James.
Cool again.
Cool again.
Do we think they're cool again?
I think they went through a phase of being saturated, probably.
Yes.
So to me, it's like, arbitrarily, it's like 30-year-old bands, as in bands that have been around 30 years, cool. And then a band now, not cool.
Right.
Right.
As in, that's not what I think, but it just seems like that's the... It's like if you're starting up and you're a band, not cool.
Yeah.
Apart from to a few people. If you're a band who's done quite well, sort of like people are starting to think you might be burgeoning, cool.
Yeah.
And then you do well and you're not cool.
Yes. That does tend to happen.
Hard to be a successful touring cool band. One exception, Fontaines. They managed to maintain. Amel and the Sniffers.
Yeah.
There's some cool, more punky bands.
Ezra. Cool.
Ezra, very cool.
But give it
some time.
Give it some time.
If you
yeah.
see how Coldplay got rinsed at the Brits.
Let them cook.
Yeah,
It's
what was the
it's
Coldplay
very
rinse? I
hard
missed
to
that 'cause
grow old as a
C-Mac was talking.
band.
They got rinsed at the Brits.
He called them public school Nickelback.
Who said that? Who said that?
Jack Matey Bob, what's his name?
Whitehall.
Oh, thank you. God.
Jack Matey Bob.
Perimenopause, babe. Give me a break. Jack Whitehall rinsed
I love Jack
every single
Whitehall.
person, James. Like,
But I've got to say, Coldplay bashing has got to stop.
okay.
got to stop.
Why?
It's not cool anymore.
There you go.
It's
This
a bit
is
on
great.
the nose.
It's not
isn't
cool
it?
anymore
Yeah.
to just be like, Coldplay's not cool. Like,
Yeah.
just fuck off.
Yeah.
They're like, there's so many amazing Coldplay songs. And Chris Martin's clearly a melodic genius. And you don't like the sound of their last few records, okay. It's like, all right.
Yeah.
When you go and see them at Glastonbury, did you like a lot of the songs? Probably.
Yeah.
Did you? Was maybe the band changed the way they dressed? It's like, are we not allowed to change the way we dress? Are we not allowed to bloody write songs in a different genre? Like, who cares, man? That is, I get really a bit irate about this.
There is certain people that do have an actual essence. It was always quite hard to quantify, but like they ooze cool. I had Paul Simonon on the show last week from The Clash, and he came in at like 8:45 in the morning in a pinstripe suit, and he's like, "Morning, just been out with the dogs," and he made me become like, and I don't think I'm cool, but I sort of was like I felt like such a nerd. Like the biggest nerd next to Paul Simonon. Have you guys met someone that does have that like effortless? Because Annie, you talked about meeting Kendrick and having Kendrick just being like so at peace and being cool with himself. Have you met someone where you've been like, wow,
He's minimal with his
they've
words.
got
He's
it.
minimal, but he
They've
has
got
an
it.
aura.
Yeah,
It's
an
incredibly
aura, for
generous.
sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Stevie Wonder.
Oh, yeah,
my
Stevie's
God.
got it.
I couldn't really
Breaking news.
talk.
I would be the
during that.
same.
I was just like, yeah, great. Thank you. I just said thank you over and over again, even though he wasn't saying anything nice to me, really.
Where did you meet Stevie?
At a party. It was a post-Oscars party. One that I was actually invited to.
Yes.
I met him there, and I remember being led up to him. I believe we talked about him playing on some music, and I was actually too afraid to text. It was actually crazy. I was actually too afraid to get in touch, and I didn't in the end, because it was almost too overwhelming.
Yeah,
I didn't really know
I
how to
understand
deal
that.
with it.
Yeah, I
and
understand
it
that.
sounds crazy because it's like, well, why wouldn't you want to work with your hero?
Yeah.
But I did.
But too much.
But he's number one. It's not like
Yeah.
it's not like meeting any other musician for me. It was like I cried afterwards. Like
Yeah.
it was just totally overwhelming and kind of
Yeah.
like impossible.
You just mentioned a post-Oscars party. This is a perfect segue
Okay, yeah.
into the next and last headline of the day, which is Chappell Roan and Elton John performing together as a duet at an Oscars viewing party. They performed Pink Pony Club. They also did Don't Let the Sun Go Down on Me. Chappell covered your song. That'd be pressure.
My song?
In front of Elton. Imagine that.
And he was on the show with me this morning, and we went to his house a couple of weeks back, and he's got this vinyl room, and we talked all about the new artists that he loved. But I just loved that he was not, I don't know, because I sense it happening to me sometimes where I'm saying, just like Chrissie Hynde and Johnny Marr, who everything's not as good as it used to be. And I can feel myself sometimes saying it, or I'm seeing something now and I'm seeing the references from someone that I liked when I was younger. And I'm like, well, they're just ripping off, Madonna, or they're just ripping off, Bjork or whatever. So I start myself doing that. And it was quite amazing to see Elton not be like that, and he just wanted to talk exclusively about new acts. And
He's
who
seeing everything
excited him.
completely fresh
Yes.
at all times.
Yeah.
That is one thing I love about Elton.
That's great,
and
isn't
what
it?
he does on his radio show and his kind of like, he was always very kind to me, and like I think he's probably the most supportive figure in music.
Yeah,
like,
consistently uplifting.
yeah.
Oh, you always hear stories of him calling people up, new
Yeah.
artists up, encouraging them.
And by the way, with a high level of taste, like
Yeah.
Oh, the taste.
you know,
Yes.
like he's when he's picking, his sort of I don't know, but he picks the right horses, basically.
Yeah, he does. He was talking about how much he loves Kneecap and Perfume Genius and Hot Wax. And he also knew everything, like stats and chart positions off the top of his head. And he gave, as you said, like such great advice for musicians and saying, like, you know, it's meant to be hard. You're meant to struggle. You're meant to have the fear. That's like what makes you an artist. And he was just like a really great reminder that, you know, that's what it's about. It's tough.
He's like a static. He's like you say about the stats. It's a bit like you know, football players who still follow the game and still kind of they're like, you know, become essentially a supporter. Yeah. Except he's still playing.
Yeah.
You know,
that's our first football analogy on the podcast.
I love it.
Thanks, James.
May there be many more.
Ever. Yeah.
We have talked so much on this podcast about the state of the industry, the bad things. And last week especially, we talked about a stat that came out. It was revealed that for the first time in over 20 years, UK artists failed to make it into the global bestseller charts in 2024.
So sometimes on this podcast we spiral and then we get in it and then I leave and I'm like, oh, was that miserable?
And we give out and there's no
resolution.
Hope. There's no hope.
Yeah.
And you're hoping that
you can solve it.
Yes, James.
Well, we always like that you talk about things and talk about the problems with the industry with a solution.
You've done
we
the
just
work.
Complain.
You've done the work.
Yeah.
We have not done the work.
Well,
we just bring the
appreciate
depressing stats.
that.
So we want to give solutions instead of problems.
Yes.
And we're hoping that you might be able to help us.
Well, I guess what we should do is that, like, we could talk about what you've done, because you've sort of got these like three-pronged attack that you've tell us about Indify and Vol and B-side and like how. Oh no,
no. So saying, first of all, tell us why you decided to do that, because that's interesting, isn't it?
Okay, so I was essentially making other people more money than I was making for myself, if any at all. You know, I was mostly making other people money, and so I just found that to be like a insurmountable problem that I thought, well, okay, I'm going to have to like break this up and figure out what's actually going on in my career, at least. Very hard to tour, you know, like post-pandemic. So I started to look at that and go, this doesn't really feel sustainable. And then, you know, with the actual sort of like the sale of music, that felt unsustainable too, because of the things I talked about in streaming, in the sense of, you know, being paid peanuts on the dollar, really. And so I was looking around at all my other artist friends, and they were all saying the same thing. So it was not so much a sort of woe is me story, although for me, I was always so sort of financially up and down. Yeah. Like, oh, I got an advance, great. Like now I can finally be sort of stable. Well, that's not going to last very long. Then you're in the same position you were in before. Right. You're just sort of like, you know, reinvesting in your tour. It's just like, because things got so expensive, it became much harder to actually to even look further into the future at how I was going to sort of survive, really. And this is a story that even successful artists are saying. So I'm thinking, I can't even imagine what this is like as a new artist going into this, right? As a developing artist. So that was kind of square one in a way. And after that, I started investigating all the kind of like the shadowy corners of the music industry that kind of led me to that point. And I became kind of even more incensed by that, because once you know, there's one thing being angry for yourself, but then there's when you look around and you hear all the stories and you actually investigate what's going on with other musicians, then it just sort of tips you over the edge.
Can I ask what your most shocking discovery was in that?
Production deals. Right. Like production deals being kind of basically where a label will sign an artist at a young age and not, you know, the artist is getting like 10% or 5% of their profits. And the label is just kind of, you know, doing the idea is that they're giving you this opportunity and therefore they can exploit you relentlessly. And you sign it because you're young and it seems like a lot of money, and then it's not. And obviously you're recouping from your 5%, not from the overall. So the gross amount of revenue generated is ludicrous. Yeah. And what you're actually receiving from it is fuck all. It's murky waters, basically. So it's hard to, you know, I'm lucky basically, in lots of ways. And I think what I realized is that, well, I may be lucky to have narrowly escaped kind of absolute failure, but I can't let it get even close to that. The floor is lava. I need to make sure that I'm set up myself with complete control over what I'm doing and understanding of what I'm doing. So I kind of just got into understanding the financials, understanding the and really like auditing.
Yeah.
Basically auditing everyone, being like, where's this? Oh, where's that gone? Where's, you know?
Yeah.
And just started asking questions. And of course, like, you know, things when it comes to why do I not know who any of my fans are? Like after 14 years of
Why
being
do
in
I
the
have
career.
no data or email addresses or anything?
Yeah.
And who
Like-
owns those email addresses?
Yeah, like I've played to 10 million people in my lifetime. Like how can I not know who any of them are? Like, and how can I not email them and just be like, hey, I've got a record coming out. There's got to be other solutions. So I looked around and I just thought, I just don't think any of these things are really cutting it. Like there are a lot of things that are very sort of good ideas. And there's a lot of independent artists who've been doing this for years who, like decades before me, have asked the right questions and done their absolute best. But like independent shouldn't mean small.
No.
You like independent should be a range of different however you want to be. And I think that what was missing was the ability to scale. And for artists to be able to feel like, well, okay, there's not a ceiling on this thing that is opened up by signing to a label.
Yeah.
So I looked for alternatives, and one of the alternatives I found was Indify. Indify is basically a services platform. So when you go to a label, they're going to say, okay, we're going to offer you marketing, PR, distribution, like a bunch of services basically. And none of them will be tailored to you.
And we're going to lend you a load of money to make your videos, and we're going to invest. It's like an investment.
Yeah, it's basically like a bank with a bunch of services attached to it, right?
Yeah.
So, and that's cool, but the services aren't aimed at you necessarily. They're aimed at like catch-all. You know, if you're me and you go to a label, like you think about the kind of artists who are on Universal, who are the breadwinner, you know, basically the breadwinners for Universal. I didn't really touch the sides when it came to, you know, like competing at that level. So I was just making music that I liked, and they were very supportive in some ways because they were like, well, but that's because also they didn't invest much money into me. So
there wasn't much of a loss.
There wasn't huge loss, and there wasn't really a risk to them. So it's about, maybe James Blake will make us a bunch of money on one song, and that'll be
and
worth
also
the
great
risk.
for our cred.
My thing is like, how do you tailor this stuff when it's not, you know, the like I've referred to it as a package holiday, where it's like you essentially. It's like, do you really want to go on the package holiday, or do you want to like tailor? Do you want to pick the hotel you want to stay in? Do you want to pick the airline? Do you want to pick the, you know, whatever it is? So that's kind of what Indify is. It's basically somewhere you can go that has investors, has marketing, has all, but you can pick them, and you can read from like a leaderboard on a website of how much value they've added to other music and people who've signed with them, like literally with streams. Like you can see how many streams they've added since they signed, what the graph of how their career went after that. And it's like, that is a thing that we've never had before, because it's like most
People
of
are accountable.
They're accountable. It's like, and by the way, the deals, you can't sign for any less than 50% of your royalty.
Yeah.
So, you know, whereas the standard major label deal is like 80-20 to the label.
That is mad.
It's crazy.
So really interested to know, like, since you've gone public with this whole interrogation of the kind of business model, what has the reaction been within your peers?
So like the other day, an artist called me up who is, I'd say probably next up, if you know what I mean. Like you can just tell they've got like an insane level of potential and already have a huge following, but they're looking to basically, you know, go further really.
Yeah.
And the conversation was about, you know, whether I should sign. I've been getting these huge offers from labels and stuff, and I asked about the terms, and we talked about, you know, how she felt during the meetings, and she told me she felt sick. I did say to her, I was like, I'm not here to just tell you not to sign to a major label. That's not my, although don't. But that is, but my thing isn't kind of, I'm not at war with anyone.
Yeah.
This is a matter of like, what is best for
For
an
you.
artist,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
specifically for you in this
Yeah.
moment. So that was an example of how the kind of phone calls I get now.
I think,
I
James,
get
you
them
could
a
provide
lot.
a legitimate service
yeah.
to people.
I mean, it's kind of a
Consultancy,
a little bit of a
like
consultancy,
music business
yeah.
consultancy
Yeah.
from an
Although-
artist POV. Like that is priceless.
It is, although I kind of think it is ultimately priceless, if you see what I'm saying.
Yes,
like I sort
you
of
can't charge for it.
I can't really, in a way, it's like, it's just about pointing people towards places that I think give them more freedom. And, you know, when I point someone towards Indify, I'm pointing them towards somewhere that's going to give them a licensing deal that's not going to keep them in a contract for 10, 15 years. When I point them towards Vault, it's a alternative revenue stream that they just didn't have access to before for unreleased music, that they can grow a fan base that they are actually communicating with in real time in a chat room. So Vault's that, and then B-Side is a ticketing platform that
Yes. Oh my God.
gives you access to your data after shows, and also is direct to fan, direct to consumer, and you know, you can kind of tailor the shows because you're doing them potentially in independent venues if you want to. It doesn't have to be, but it's basically it cuts out the middleman again.
Yeah.
In a ticketing industry that desperately needs it, and there are alternatives popping up, but to me the B-Side has been the best one I've heard of.
I've heard of
and
it,
so
yeah.
all of these things, it's like I'm just going, oh, that looks really good, that solves the problem. To me, in my mind, that solves another problem. None of them solve the whole problem.
I have a question. Who can we think of now who's the biggest independent artist? Like, it's interesting, like you talk about how far can you go as an independent artist? Can you play the O2 as an independent, you know, in terms of the systems in place,
In
the
the
ticketing
UK.
systems,
Yeah.
you know, the O2 is
I
affiliated
mean,
to
Dave's
very-
independent.
Is he?
I think so.
Sims.
Sims?
Yeah.
I think Sims is independent.
Yeah, Sims is
There's
definitely
a lot
independent.
Of, lot of big
Yeah.
independent.
And
Who else?
it's nice just hearing all that as well, just knowing that there's another route. Like, you don't have to sign up
Yeah.
for, oh, okay, I'll write 5 albums and you'll rip me off.
You're now like in a kind of later stage of your career, so you're able to kind of have the time and the headspace and the
For sure.
focus. So I just wonder, like, you can see how young people get kind of courted into a system that they don't
I mean, I
understand.
did.
Yeah.
I was, and so yeah.
Well, it sounds like the only way, before you're hearing other ways, you think that's what happens. That's
Yeah.
the standard.
Yeah.
Hey, can I ask you about new music? Because I loved Like the End that we got
Thanks.
sort
Oh
of
my
November
God,
time.
obsessed.
Thank
And the
you
visual
so
for that
much.
is
Thanks.
just
It
insane.
was one of my
It's heartbreaking,
favourites of the year. We waxed lyrical
Yeah,
about
we
it on this
did.
podcast.
We did.
And we
Thanks.
played it a lot on the radio, and we tortured my neighbours with it. And I loved the video as well.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
video is
thanks.
insane.
Really depressing.
So you know when something hits you,
the
like, it
video got
hits
me.
you
I was like,
hard.
oh my God. It was
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
you know, was that
So timely.
so timely, so timely. And then I got really excited, and then I was like, oh, we're gonna have some more James Blake stuff, and now we're
I
in
know.
March.
I know. We're in March, and it hasn't
Hell's going
happened.
on?
I'm giving people a break.
No,
I've been away. I've made like an album every 2.5, probably every 2 years,
Which is
and
what we
released music in. Thank you. And released music in between those albums, and kind of like just, I don't know, man. Done a lot of features as well, and like done it. There's a lot of music out there, and I think this year, you know, I am going to release music later this year, I think, but I think from now, it's just, this is my, you know, I am, to be honest, with all the things I just talked about, I am having to do a lot of, you know, I'm
Consulting.
now,
Yeah.
yeah. But in terms of like what I'm in, you know, I am making music. I'm making a lot of music. I'm starting, you know, with my CMYK group company thing. We are starting a live stream, which will just be us in the studio. In a kind of it's kind of like a, I guess like a weird art exhibit that will just be online.
Love.
And hopefully form this kind of, you know, background to people's lives if they
nice.
tune in. It's
Yeah.
sort of like almost like, if you can imagine, like a very, I think it will be sometimes really relaxed, ambient, us just, you know, making music in the studio. Sometimes it will be artists joining us. Sometimes it will be much more raucous. Sometimes it will be like techno. Sometimes it will be, you know, rap. So whoever's in basically. And obviously, it won't be me rapping.
Shame.
And so, yeah.
I like the sound of that.
So that'll be
Do you
fun.
remember when Frank Ocean did his wonderful deal, where he did his famous deal where he...
Independent?
Well, independent now? No?
Well, where he... Yeah.
Because didn't he like have a deal with whatever label it was, and he said, he had another album deal, and he released, was it called Endless?
Also, he had one record left on
Right.
his Universal contract.
Yes.
And
So
so he submitted a much more left field ambient, much more ambient record as that final record. And then 2 weeks later, I think, something like that, had done a deal with Apple for some ludicrous sum of money that he then released his main album, Blonde.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because he did
that independently.
Do you remember he did the stream and everyone got really excited after it'd been a while, and it was him building
a
the
staircase.
staircase.
Yeah.
If you can imagine the...
Love.
Yeah. That's
Obviously loved.
Yeah. Instead of building a staircase, we're making unlistenable loops. If you can imagine that as the CMYK stream.
If you're looking for a new podcast to obsess over, you should try Miss Me on BBC Sounds. Best friends Lily Allen and Makita Oliver get together once a week and basically discuss the world, the highs and lows of their lives, the biggest cultural moments. It is a real friendship being played out on a weekly basis. I love it. It's such a good podcast. That's Miss Me on BBC Sounds. Okay, we're back.
So not to break the illusion of continuity, but I've gone to the toilet.
Yes, in the break, yeah.
Not obviously in my seat. I went to the bathroom and I've put this on since, because I was a bit cold and I was starting to shiver.
It is freezing.
This being
Yeah.
This being
a coat,
very cool leather jacket,
Very cool.
in the
Chrissie
style
Hynde
of Chrissie Hynde.
and said it's fantastic. It is actually freezing in here. I will say, when I came in, I turned it down because I'm wearing mohair. So apologies. Dave's
Thanks a
turned
bunch,
it back
mate.
up. Yeah.
Thanks a bunch. I'm
Sorry.
freezing.
Yeah, and a mohair jean. It's a lot of mohair. Sorry. Let's get into our listener
Coordination
questions,
is unbelievable.
shall we?
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Okay, first up, who've we got?
It's Francisca from South London. And my question to you, on the back of a horrendous flying experience, I was flying back to London. There were some turbulences coming into London, not as bad as I've ever experienced. Back down, back up, where we can land. I relapsed into Catholicism myself, and being very dramatic of me, very Spanish of me, I generally thought, if I were to die now, what song would I love to be listening to? And first thing that came to mind was Ancora, Ancora, Ancora by Mina, but the Mark Bronson edit, and that was done for the Gucci show not long ago. So my question to you is, if you were in a situation that, okay, this is it, I am going down, what song would you love to be listening to on repeat?
Wow.
Can I just say, I love our listeners so much.
Because I love thinking you're going to die and you're like, oh, definitely the Mark Ronson edit that was in the Gucci show.
Yeah, the prescience.
Like, what?
So the question
Obsessed.
is, what song would you turn on if you knew your death was impending, very soon? What song would give you comfort? Maybe you don't want comfort in that moment. Maybe you want complete oblivion. Maybe you just want death metal. I don't know.
Bit of horse girl. Who knows?
Is it definitely happening, or can I?
You're
Have
definitely
I decided
dying.
I'm just going to listen to music, and then if I'd chosen to do something else, I could have avoided it?
No, you have to presume that you are going to die.
The plane's going down. Do
For
you know?
once I know.
Yeah. You.
For once I know.
Wow.
Yeah.
Annie never knows. So this is big. Have you thought about this before?
Yeah. Well, it's also the same. It's also my funeral song. It's the same one I always choose, which is my favorite song of all time, which is Van Morrison and Sweet Thing. The lyrics go like this: I will drive my chariot down your streets and cry. I'm dynamite and I don't know why. And I will not remember that I ever felt the pain. And I will never grow so old again.
Wow.
Right?
I don't think I'd listen to music, if I'm honest. I think I'd be
Not
too
the day
stressed. I'd be too, I'd be too
smells every
stressed.
Yeah.
Just put on Endless I guess.
Yeah, Frank Ocean's Endless on.
Yeah, I get the video of the.
What about that
building the
silent
staircase.
album that we were talking
Yeah,
about
the
last
new
week? The
artist,
AI
the
protest
AI
went to the sign of
album.
a car park.
I actually know mine because I thought about mine the other day because I went to see Jo Wiley on Radio 2 and she does that as a feature, which
Oh,
I
wow.
thought was really
Morbid.
on Jo Wiley.
Yeah.
So you're going to die. What did you go for? So I actually thought about it because I was on a train, which I thought is a good time to think about mortality.
Yeah.
And I would go for Kate Bush's The Morning Fog because Kate Bush, but also she talks all about like, I miss my mother, I miss my father, I hugged my brother. So it
lovely.
felt quite final. So I think
Yeah.
that's quite good.
I'd go
That's
for Here
beautiful.
Comes the Flood, I think. Do you know Here Comes the Flood, Peter Gabriel?
Oh, yes.
The record version. I
Yeah.
think.
It feels lyrically
Yeah.
like correct in
Yeah,
terms of a
if-
sense
yeah.
of
I mean, it depends where you're crash
Doom.
landing, I guess.
yeah.
I love the idea of Francisca searching frantically for a specific edit.
Before
Yes.
we continue, I played a gig on Friday in
Yeah.
Newcastle. Joe from the Sphere popped up. So this is a previous listener who went to the Sphere in Vegas and gave
When
us
it
the
just
full,
opened.
gave us the
Yeah.
full like lowdown on drinks, what it was like, all of that. And she just came up to the front. She was like, "Joe from the Sphere."
Wow, you met her.
I got a picture of her.
Oh, wow.
And I'm dreading the review.
Oh, of your show.
Yeah, because
Which was pretty brutal about the Sphere.
Right, I know.
It was many of the pint prices was Joe's problem,
Yeah.
and rightly so.
Yeah, fair enough.
Right, let's see who we have next.
This is Elle from Darlaw. I am wondering if you've ever had periods of life where you cannot listen to music. For me, if something challenging's happened last year, there was a period for about 3 months. I just couldn't listen to anything. Even a nursery rhyme might set me off crying. Music just touched me in a place that other things couldn't. It just released emotion. And then when I came out the other side of that, I knew I could start listening to music again. But there are still certain songs I cannot. Has it ever happened to you that music just touches you too much and you cannot listen to it? Or are there any particular songs or artists that you can't listen to when you're having a tricky time?
Wow.
that's a gorgeous question.
Great
Great
question.
Yeah.
James, have you had that as someone who makes music? Do you ever have a time where you simply can't listen to it?
If it's not mine being played, or no, I just don't have like the constant desire to listen to music because obviously I'm making it so much of the time. But what I would say is that when I'm really stressed, I can't listen to anything with lyrics in it. Like when I'm like max stress, I find myself only listening to ambient music or classical piano or something like that, just to like not have to deal with other people's thoughts. And that happened to me recently. Actually, I started just I realized I was stressed because I was only listening to. I started looking up piano concertos because I was just fascinated by. But it was just nice to hear a melody, but not the associated lyrics.
I can safely say no, which makes me feel very lucky that I haven't experienced anything that traumatic. It's all ahead of me. That will mean I just can't listen to music. I do, when I'm writing, have situations where any sort of music, I just kind of, something in my brain grabs onto it. So I would listen to a lot of Niels Fram and that kind of thing. A lot of just very instrumental, Brian Eno, that kind of thing, ambient stuff. Because I like to have something, but I've never been in a situation where I can't.
Yes.
This
I
is
love that
Same.
Emerald and Lime by Brian Eno and John Hopkins, I think. And there's this album they did together, and there's this track called Emerald and Lime, which is probably one of my favourite ambient pieces. And I turn to that when I'm at max stress. I
Oh,
think.
wow.
Okay.
We need to listen to
Yeah.
that
That's
Emerald
great.
and Lime.
Yeah, it's-
I'm the same.
Put that in the notes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
get that in the notes. I'm the same. I've never, and the same as you guys. I can't listen to lyrics if I've got something to do. So if I've got to do work for the show, or if I've read to a write, I can't listen to a lyric, even when I'm cooking. But I can listen to. It doesn't have to be ambient. I could listen to, I could listen to techno or something, but I just can't listen to a lyric.
Yes.
Quite like something actually quite loud and hard and industrial when I have to write. Because it's almost like a white noise. Like I actually can't think of anything else.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
not
yeah.
thinking about the dogs need a walk.
It's
or like, what am I
interesting
doing
though.
later?
Yeah.
It's interesting though that the whole idea of music being so powerful that you can't, that you have no control over what it can do to your brain. So the only way you can control your own emotions is to avoid. Freud famously hated music because of that. He was quoted to say he didn't like to be moved so much by something he did not understand.
There's something
That's
quite
the
beautiful
fucking
in
magic
that,
of
though.
music, Freud.
Yeah, but there is something quite beautiful in him saying, like, you couldn't understand it. Like, you can't, there's no science to those feelings, is it? It's
But
just...
music is magic. Like, for me, music is the...
No, great for us, terrible if you're a psychologist.
Yeah, yeah,
If
true.
you're trying to, like, I will understand the brain. Apart
Music
from
is
they
the
love
mystery of the
tunes.
world. Here's a question for you, James. Imagine I just put you in a rocket, right? And I fire you up onto Mars.
As she
tomorrow.
often does with guests.
And on Mars, you land, and there's a whole population of extraterrestrials there, and they ask you what you do, and you say, "I make music," and they say, "What's music?"
That's how I feel now.
What would you say?
Have you
I'd
microdosed?
say, I'd say like, haven't we got more pressing things to talk about? I've just landed on this planet and I want to figure out what's fuck's going on, where I'm going to
No,
live.
don't cop out. Come
I need a
on.
coat. Mars is freezing.
How do I describe music? Oh, that's a good question. I think we essentially assimilate to whatever's being beamed at us, right? So it's like a collection of like sonic imprints, or one that forms one large sonic imprint, which is beamed at you, and you assimilate to the shape of that.
Yes.
And therefore, which is why we find it so hard to, as the caller said about how, she can't listen at certain times. That's because you are sort of in a fragile place where you're impressionable, and you don't want to be thrown into different kind of emotional states. But that's exactly what music does. It's just that some of us are, music hits a certain, I mean, I've lived in LA for 9 years, so please forgive me, a vibration that we then assimilate to, that we match, right? And if we can't match it, then we go, oh, it doesn't compute, we don't like it. But it's like, I think it's, if I was explaining it to somebody who had never heard it, that's what I'd probably describe it as.
That's
Take
a great
that, aliens.
description.
Take that. It's a sonic.
I feel like
sonic
I'm
imprint.
in the Stone Circle at 6 o'clock
I
in the morning.
fucking wish I was in the Stone Circle.
That can be your Glastonbury question this year, man.
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
it gets to sort of dawn with your microphone.
Macias.
I mean, my answer there, I feel like, was it's sort of one of those memes where you're like, they said have fun at the party, and then it just cuts to me just like being like, it's like a sonic impression. It forms a wider imprint of sonic impressions.
James.
Oh, mate.
Oh my God, that was funny. If you ever want to send us a huge question, like what song would you like to die to, email us sidetracked@bbc.co.uk or get us on WhatsApp on 079 700 82700. Love those questions.
So, James, thank you so much for being here today. Thank you for your wisdom. Thank you for answering the tough questions.
Big questions. Thanks for
you.
solving the music industry. But no, it was really nice to hang out. So thank you so much.
It's been lovely. And again, thank you for all your support over the years, the many, many years.
Many years.
It's been a pleasure.
It has.
Many years.
We love James Blake. We do. Thanks for watching.
Bye.